10 Pre-1880, photographs in the Vatican Archive that no curator has catalogued. The Vatican Apostolic Archive contains approximately 400,000 photographs dating from 1839 to the present. Most are catalogued with inventory numbers and subject descriptions. 10 are not. These 10 photographs, taken before 1880, exist in the physical archive. Researchers have seen them or found references in finding aids, but they have no catalogue entries. When asked about them, Vatican archivists give different answers depending on who you ask. The photographs exist in deliberate non-classification. In an archive this meticulous, that is functionally hiding them, here is the question nobody asks. If the Vatican catalogues every papal bull, every cardinal's letter, every minor relic, why would 10 Pre-1880 photographs remain uncatalogued for over a century? Because cataloguing them would require explanations the Church does not want to provide. They show industrial capacity at scales inconsistent with the narrative of the Church in decline during the 19th century. Number 1. The 1843 photograph showing construction scaffolding on St. Peter's Basilica dome interior above Bernini's bronze baldachin with industrial lifting equipment. Official history states Michelangelo's dome, completed in 1590, required only minor repairs in the 19th century. The photograph shows heavy timber scaffolding extending from floor to dome apex over 400 feet, pulley systems for multi-ton stone blocks. A handwritten note attributes it to a photographer working for the Reverenda Fabbrica di San Pietro, referencing earthquake repairs from October 1841. That earthquake is documented. The scale of repair is not. Official records describe cracked plaster and fallen cornices. The photograph shows structural reconstruction. The gap is 300 tons of worked stone. Number 2. The 1851 daguerreotype showing the Sistine Chapel ceiling from an angle requiring scaffolding 68 feet high. No Vatican document mentions such scaffolding. Michelangelo's frescoes, painted 1508 to 1512, were not cleaned until the 1980s restoration. The 1851 photograph shows preservation inconsistent with the soot damage documented in 1930s photographs. Either the ceiling degraded rapidly between 1851 and 1930, contradicting fresco aging patterns, or the photograph shows a cleaning never recorded, a cleaning requiring expensive scaffolding with no paper trail. The photograph exists. The scaffolding does not. Number 3. The 1867 albumen print showing a Vatican library basement on no published architectural plan. Official floor plans show ground floor, piano nobile, attic storage, no basement. The photograph shows vaulted stone archways, oak bookshelves, and electric lighting. Electric lighting in 1867. The Vatican did not install electricity until 1886. The print is mounted on Vatican Library cardstock with embossed insignia, meaning it was official. Then it was excluded from cataloguing. What sits in an uncatalogued basement lit by electricity that does not officially exist? Number 4. The 1859 photograph showing approximately 200 wooden crates stacked in a warehouse space, with Cyrillic lettering clearly visible on multiple crates. The only identifying information is a date and one word in Latin, Moscovia, the Latinized name for the Grand Duchy of Moscow, predecessor to the Russian Empire. The warehouse is not identified, but the stonework visible in the background matches the architectural style of Vatican storage facilities built in the 16th century. The crates are remarkably uniform in size, roughly 3 feet by 2 feet by 2 feet, and the Cyrillic lettering includes what appear to be sequential inventory numbers. The photograph was taken a decade after the 1848 revolutions tore through European monarchies, and 2 years before the emancipation of Russian serfs began in 1861. What the Vatican was storing from Moscow in 1859, in quantities requiring 200 identical crates, is documented nowhere in the public record. Art collections or religious artifacts moved during political instability would normally be catalogued as acquisitions with full provenance documentation. These were not. They were stored without catalogue. The photograph was then also removed from the catalogue system. The pattern is now clear. What remains uncatalogued is evidence of economic relationships that complicate official narratives. Number 5. The 1,874 photograph showing the interior of the Vatican's Gold Reserve Vault, a facility that officially did not exist until the Institute for the Works of Religion was created in 1942. That is a 68-year discrepancy. The photograph shows rows of wooden shelving loaded with standardized gold ingots, not ancient coins or religious artifacts. Industrial products, uniform in size, each stamped with dates. One ingot near the center reads 1,847. Another shows 1,852. Mid-19th century industrial ingots from national mints and major financial institutions. The vault is dressed stone with an iron-banded door, and the photograph is taken from inside looking outward, meaning someone carried camera equipment, glass plates, chemicals, and substantial lighting into an active, secured repository. This was official institutional photography. Then the photograph was removed from the catalogue. The gold vault that did not exist until 1942 is photographed in operational use in 1874. That is a severed timeline. Number 6. The 1,862 albumen print showing a rotary printing press, specifically the type patented by Richard March Hoe in 1843, installed in what appears to be a Vatican workshop. The Vatican has maintained printing operations since the establishment of the Vatican Press in 1587, but the official history of that press describes hand-operated flatbed presses until the gradual introduction of mechanized printing in the 1890s. A rotary press in 1862 would have been expensive, cutting-edge industrial equipment requiring significant capital investment and technical expertise to operate and maintain. Such a press was capable of printing tens of thousands of pages per day, a production capacity orders of magnitude beyond what hand presses could achieve. What was being printed at that volume in 1,862? The photograph does not show printed material, only the press itself, centered in the frame, with workbenches visible in the background and stacked paper along the edges. The press is clean, well maintained, clearly in regular use. The Catholic Church in the 1860s was engaged in active ideological warfare against liberalism, nationalism, and secularism across Europe. A rotary press capable of producing 50,000 pages daily would be a propaganda weapon of considerable power. A weapon that does not appear anywhere in the official documentation of the Vatican Press or in papal administrative records. The photograph shows the weapon, the official record does not. Number 7. The 1,856 photograph showing a meeting room in the Apostolic Palace with a large map of Africa on the wall. The map depicts the African interior with geographical precision, including river systems, mountains, and labelled settlements in regions that were not systematically mapped by Europeans until the 1870s and 1880s. Livingstone and Stanley's celebrated expeditions occurred well after 1856. The map shows knowledge that supposedly did not exist yet. The Vatican maintained extensive missionary networks throughout Africa during the 19th century. Missions in Ethiopia, West Africa, Madagascar. Missionaries are observers who send regular reports to Rome. Geographical observations, trade routes, political structures, resources, populations. That information accumulated over decades from hundreds of missionaries constitutes an intelligence network. A network that, if made public, would have undermined the political narrative that European powers were discovering and therefore had rights to claim previously unknown territories. The map represents compiled knowledge kept internal. The photograph documenting that map was also kept internal, uncatalogued. Discovery, when used to justify colonization, is a political claim masquerading as a geographical one. Number 8. The 1,848 daguerreotype showing a textile manufacturing facility with multiple rows of mechanical looms and workers attending machines. The photograph is not labelled but architectural elements visible through windows, specifically Roman roof tiles and building profiles matching the Trastevere district, suggest Vatican-controlled territory. The Vatican operated charitable workshops throughout the 19th century. Official descriptions emphasize small-scale handcraft, individual artisans, operations for the deserving poor rather than revenue generation. The photograph contradicts that completely. This is industrial-scale production. Mechanical looms were expensive capital investments, requiring ongoing maintenance costs, raw material procurement at volume, skilled supervisors, and wholesale market access. The workers wear practical industrial work clothes, aprons, head coverings, sturdy footwear, factory workers in an organized production system, not charity cases. The photograph was taken in 1848, when revolutionary movements erupted across Europe and the Papal States were briefly overthrown. During political instability, industrial equipment cannot be moved or hidden. It continues operating, possibly under different management. When order is restored, the operation continues, but photographic documentation is removed from records because acknowledging it would require explanations about capital sources and profit distribution. The looms produced finished textile goods. Those goods generated income. That income does not appear in publicly available Vatican financial records. Number 9. The 1,871 photographs showing the interior of a chapel or small church, with walls covered in frescoes that are not identified in any catalogue of Vatican or Roman church art. The frescoes are clearly visible in the photograph. The style is consistent with late Renaissance or early Baroque work, possibly late 16th or early 17th century, based on the visible compositional techniques and colour palette. The subject matter is religious, showing what appear to be scenes from the lives of saints, but the specific saints, the specific iconography, and the location of the chapel itself are all unknown and undocumented. The photograph is dated 1871, which is significant. That is the year Rome was captured by Italian forces, and the Papal States ceased to exist as a political entity. In the chaos of that territorial transition, thousands of minor properties including chapels, monasteries, and administrative buildings changed hands or were absorbed into the new Italian state. Some transfers were meticulously documented, many were not. The photograph suggests that someone in 1871 made a deliberate effort to document this particular chapel before it disappeared from direct Vatican control. But the photograph itself was not catalogued, which means the chapel, its location, and whatever valuable contents it held were not officially recorded as part of the institutional archive. When a chapel is photographed but not catalogued, the question is not what appears in the photograph. The question is what else was in that chapel that needed to disappear from the historical record. Number 10. The 1,879 albumen print showing a basement with wooden crates and canvas-wrapped bundles, with a stone staircase visible. The photograph is slightly out of focus, suggesting it was taken quickly or in low light. The notation on the back is trasferimento, meaning transfer. Transfer of what, from where to where, is not specified. The date places this 1 year before the Vatican closed the secret archive to all researchers until 1881. The period from 1879 to 1881 is one of the least documented in Vatican history, despite being recent. Officially, reorganization. Unofficially, something was moved, something large enough for dozens of crates, something that needed transfer before researchers gained access again. The photograph shows the transfer. The catalogue does not. The stumps poke through the clouds. These 10 photographs represent complexity. Economic complexity, institutional complexity that conflicts with the narrative of the 19th century church as an institution in retreat, losing power, shrinking before modernity. That narrative is not entirely wrong. The church lost the Papal States. It lost temporal authority. But economic power and political power are not the same. An institution with extensive holdings, trade networks, missionary operations on 6 continents, banking relationships with every European monarchy, and centuries of capital management expertise does not collapse because it loses territory in central Italy. It adapts. It moves operations underground, It stops documenting certain activities. It allows some photographs to be catalogued and some to remain in storage, visible but unexplained. The Vatican is not hiding these photographs. It is housing them in permanent ambiguity, visible enough that existence cannot be denied, uncatalogued enough that no explanation is required. This is managed ambiguity, not conspiracy. Simply an institutional tendency to avoid records that require uncomfortable explanations. Every institution does this. The question is what we do when we notice. The 10 photographs exist. Researchers have seen them. Most publications about them remain in obscure journals. The photographs remain uncatalogued, and the clock continues. Photographic plates degrade. Albumen prints fade. They are readable now. They will not be forever. The stumps are weathering. If you found this worth your time, share it with someone. Not because it proves anything definitively, because it asks the right question. What does it mean when an institution that catalogues everything chooses not to catalogue 10 things? And what were those 10 things documenting that made non-documentation preferable? We will be here, asking what nobody catalogues and exactly why.